Hello. Outside it's cold, not so cold. No, because previously I worked in Russia, I worked in Ukraine, I worked in Finland, and there is cold. Not here. Here it's windy, no, but not so cold. But as soon as I entered to the bookstore, I immediately feel warm here. I take my jacket out. And it's not because of the place, it's because of you. I feel that warm in my body immediately. When I was in the way to here, I said, I will start my presentation with something that I'm not tired to say it. My congratulations again for the Naoe Award in Japan. It's a prize that the Father Michael won there. And one of the points for that prize was the solidarity with Cuba. It was something that Japanese, they take in mind for giving that prize to him. That's why all the time when I see the first day when immediately I wrote to you to WhatsApp, congratulations for that. And I sent it to Havana immediately with a picture, something that you deserve. Well, also, I made a lot of notes here and said, oh, would be boring to say all this. But in any case, the most important is to try to give you some issues. How is the situation in Cuba today? Because if I talk about the blockade, all these things, something that you know very well, because in all these years, a lot of conversation. But even though I want to talk some points of how blockade is today intact, even though said that Biden relaxed some measures or something, it's not true. It's still in force, the blockade. And after that, of course, I prefer to share with you. You ask questions. You can ask whatever you want. I will answer what I can, not everything. When we talk about the relation about the United States and Cuba, we have to go back to the history of our country. You know very well that before the revolution, Cuba was a beautiful place as is today. Small island, narrow island, summer all the time, no winter at all. And all the month they wanted to stay there for all the casinos, gambling, to do the country, the backyard of the United States for that. Relax people there. After the triumph of the Cuban Revolution, all this expectation from the mass in the United States fell down. Even before the revolution, the situation in Cuba was catastrophic. It was in the hands of 3 persons, the majority of the land of the country. In the hands of 3 families, the majority of the land of the people. The electricity was a United States company. Phone, telephone and communication, United States company. Waters, United States company. Transport, United States company. We were living in Cuba, but we have nothing. Nothing at all. Everything belongs to United States company. And of course, anybody that's immediately from one day to another, they lost all this, they cannot accept it. It was at the beginning of the revolution that nobody talked about socialism, about communism, nothing about it. But the thing is that they lost everything that they had in the country. Then was that obsession that's Fidel Castro, after Fidel Castro, Then Fidel Castro resigned, no more Fidel Castro in the power. Then Raúl Castro and the Castros, and now no Raúl Castro, no Fidel Castro, and now we have a new president elected by the majority of the people, and now is the problem with the new president. So it's not the problem who is in the government of Cuba. The problem is that they want to take Cuba back to their hands. This is the real situation. And the only way that they can pressure us is through the blockade. The blockade for all these 60 years or more than 60 years was reinforcing. In the period of Obama was some relaxations, many measures of that. Was the interest to try to find some close relation, not a normal relation, close relation but not normal, because to have normal relation with any country, you cannot do it under the pressure of blockade or a piece of land occupied like Guantanamo Bay, which is occupied in Cuba by the United States illegally. So the relation couldn't be normal under that circumstances. For all this year, our government and our people were working to try to make our economy prosperous, sustainable to everybody. But the blockade is the main obstacle to try to make the economy so prosperous as we want. The blockade, we consider that is the most comprehensive because it's not only against Cubans, it's extraterritorial. It's also affect the relation with other countries, not only the Cubans, but with South Africa. If you want to trade with us, also affect the blockade. But it's also the most prolonged and severe system of unilateral sanctions against any country in the history. There is no doubt of that. The blockade is contrary to the international law, to the purpose and principle of the United States and was created in the Charter of the Free Trade and everything that was created in the United Nations. There is something that not everybody knows, but we put it in papers always, that people can understand that the blockade is not the problem of the socialists or communists, Cuba. In 1960, the Deputy Assistant of Secretary of State of the United States, Lester Mayori, he wrote an internal memo, and in this memo, Mayori pointed out that the only way to overthrow the Cuban government is through economic dissatisfaction and hardship. He advocates and set up punitive economic actions against our country. Let me quote this fragment that was classified by the United States Department long ago and describe exactly the objective of the blockade against Cuba. And it proves what I said about all this. He quotes in this memo: creating disillusionment and discouragement through economic dissatisfaction and hardship, weakening the economic life by denying money and supplies to Cuba in order to reduce nominal and real wages, to bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow the economy. As you can see, it's no doubt in that context for international law, it's an act of genocide. It's an act of genocide. If we look at the basic measure of and scope of the blockade, it's clear that United States not only through the blockade affects Cuba, as I said, other countries. In the Trump administration, he approved 249 new measures against Cuba. So for 60 years, were a lot of sanctions against Cuba. And Trump appeared and he, I would say, tripled, 4 times more sanctions against Cuba. In the moment that the Cuba was trying to revitalize its economy. I have here a long list of all these measures that I will not talk to you, but despite of all this and difficulties created by the blockade, but I can assure that we in Cuba have the commitment to build a socialist society, quality society. It's a commitment of the majority of the population. Maybe not everybody share the same opinion, but at least the majority, the huge majority of the Cubans, they have that commitment. We don't intend that to have the Cuban model system as a model for all the countries. Not. This is not our intention. Each country have the right to decide which economic, social, and political system they want to build. And that's what we are asking to, that we decide by ourselves what we want to do in our country. I will never would cross my mind that someone from any country come to the United States to say, no, you don't need this system. Now you will have this, and we will blockade you, and we will do that. They will not accept it. They say, well, they are big, we are small. It doesn't matter, but if we are equal, it doesn't matter how big you are. Despite of all that, let me mention some achievement that Cuba had in all these years. The last data about hunger in the world was that 815 million people suffer from hunger. No one is Cuban. 760 million others are illiterate. No one is Cuban. Since 1961, we erased the illiteracy from our country. The life expectancy in Cuba is almost 80 years old. It's only compared with the wealthy countries, developing countries. And myself, I'm not so young. I hope to get to the 80s. The whole Cuban population received totally free, high qualified education. You know, the education of the health system in Cuba, there are pillars of our system. They are the pillars of our system. But despite of all the efforts of the United States to try not to people to know all the achievements that we have, and to try to stop any solidarity that we have with other countries, you know that we send to many countries who ask, not that we impose. They ask us. We need medical support. We need medical brigades. And then we are ready to send it to them. At the moment of the pandemic, when the high figures and numbers of the pandemic worldwide, we send it thousands of Cuban health professionals in 57 medical brigades to more than 40 countries to help in the pandemic catastrophe that was in the world. And all these Cubans health professionals, they work in the rural areas. They were not in the capital hospital, what do you say? They were in the rural areas or in the red zones where the pandemic was suffering the most. South Africa was included as part of that country that we have medical team here. Nowadays, which is important, Cuba is going through a tense economic situation, like any other country. Because of the pandemic, several factors, pandemic, economic crisis that we have all over the world, logistical international problems that we have everywhere. Cuba is not an exception. It's also suffered for all this. But even though the United States is persisting to efforts to try to overcome our system, and they use it, the pandemic period, to reinforce the blockade against Cuba. You know, it's something that any human can think, okay, they are in need now. They are suffering like everybody by pandemic. Okay, we need to share each other, to help each other, but to use that moment to try to reinforce the blockade, to try to not medicines, not drugs, not raw material, for trying to do our vaccines was a criminal act. But even though we created in Cuba 4 vaccines, our own vaccines. The World Health Organization haven't recognized yet, only Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, one more, but we have 4. And with that 4 vaccines, more than 95% of the population of Cuba is fully vaccinated. That's why in Cuba we did it, what South Africa did it yesterday, 3 months ago. We lifted all the mask, everything. 3 months ago we did it. By the way, this is my suggestion to all of you. We have to take the mask, everything, but please take care of yourself. This pandemic is hiding everywhere. And today, everything is recovering, but tomorrow we will not know what is going to happen. We have to be vaccinated and try to keep some measures too. If I care myself, I care you, you care him, and we care each other together. That's why it's my suggestion.
Thank you.
As I was saying, like all the countries, Cuba is going through a difficult economic situation, influenced by global crisis, the price of fuel, food, transportations, and of course the pandemic. Despite having overcome the pandemic and having returned to normality, Cuba faced serious commercial and financial difficulties in all markets due to the United States' persistent blockade. The combined effect is expressed in serious problems of supply and stability in the services on which the population depends. There are many services now in Cuba that we have to restrain because we cannot get supplies for the population. Everybody who knows Cuba, we are characterized to share what we have, not what is left over. If we have $1, we share the dollar 50-50. If I have 1 million, I give you someone 100, it's solidarity. You give 100, but it's not easy to give $1, and it's the case what we do. The United States is directing a campaign of political destabilization and discredit against Cuba, with the use of millions of dollars and highly sophisticated information and disinformation technologies. It seeks to depress the standard of living of citizens, generate discontent, and to try to mobilize segments of the population to commit violent acts and mobilize them against the government. What I'm trying to say here, that everything that could happen is part of the plan that they're trying to provoke through all this situation that is in the country. If this happens in any other country, anybody say nothing. But in Cuba, if someone say anything or throw a stone, immediately it's a problem. All the media say everything against the government. Legends or their propagation in the media are used to internationally generate the image of a country socially unstable and a political crisis inside the country. I just arrived here 6 months ago. I can tell you, in Cuba, there is no destabilization. People are normal. It could be in some place something happened, but it's not in the whole country. This is not true. Not true. An attempt is being made to fabricate the pretext for a humanitarian intervention, like was already tried in last year. In 2021, that was what we're trying to do. But I can assure, Cuba is stable, is safe, united country, capable of facing its challenge with the creative and efforts, and it is not experiences any crisis, nor its population is in danger. The Cuban population is not in any danger. The Cuban population is benefits for everything that our government is trying to give to all of us. So, to finalize this part, my message is that in all these campaigns that they are trying to create around Cuba, against Cuba, the international solidarity is very important. It's very important because alone in this world, nowadays, you can do nothing. Everyone in the world have to be united for the good cause. And in the case of Cuba, I can assure that we are ready to fight until our last tide of blood, defending our government. That's all. Thank you. No questions.
Thank you very much, comrades. Just for a moment, why don't you talk to your neighbor? What struck you about what the ambassador has said? What struck you? Well, just talk to you. Are you allowed to speak to each other in this bookshop?
Absolutely.
Okay, just talk to each other for a minute. What struck you? And then we'll open it to questions and comments. Okay, all right. I recognize this person and then that person. Okay,
okay. Yes. Thank you so much for
You're
your...
going to introduce yourself first?
Oh, sure. My name is Joseph Mullen. I'm from the U.S. I'm here researching.
We've heard of the U.S., yes.
Yes. And I wanted to ask, since you talked a lot about the American campaign against Cuba, of course, we were chatting a bit before about the American support for apartheid as well and the intervention in Angola. So I wonder if you can expand a bit on this historical solidarity of Cuba for South Africa in the liberation struggle and also against the American intervention in support of apartheid in Angola.
So the two things, the history of solidarity with Cuba, with South Africa, and the role of the United States in support of apartheid.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you're prepared to sit here for 8 hours while you give you an introduction to the answer. Okay.
He's from United States. Let me be clear. When we are talking about United States, we are talking about the government of the United States. With the Cubans, love the people of the United States. We want a good relation with the people of the United States. So what we always said is that we want to live as in a good neighborhood there. We are only 198 kilometers one from another. That's why being of the United States is nothing. But in the case of the involvement of Cuba in Africa, all this struggle, we also, in any analysis that we made, we have to go back to the history. When Cuba was founded by Spanish colonizer, they exterminated the whole Cuban population, all the indigenous population. And then the Spanish colonizers, they brought to Cuba and to the Caribbean islands the African labor force to work in the sugar cane plantations in our country. So, in the past of the years, was created the Cuban nation with the mixing of the Spanish who were there and the Africans. That's why we said that we have an African blood. We don't have a color of the skin. We have the African blood, and we look like everybody, like a person. We are, all of us, we are persons. We don't have colors. That's why in Cuba, we consider all of us Cubans. You never have heard a Cuban African, a Cuban Chinese, or something like that. No, no. We are Cubans, no matter from your background or something like that. When in 10 October 1868, we started the independent war against Spain, was Carlos Manuel de Céspedes. We consider the father of the nation. He set free the African slaves. Get together all of them and say, you are free. If you want to be free really, join me to fight the Spanish colonizer. So the army of Cuba, for the independence of Cuba, we also with the Africans who were there. So we were in debt with Africa. That's why we were involved, not because we wanted to go. It's because the governments at that moment in Africa, as we know, the apartheid, it was the most cruel, most humiliating system in the world. After fascism, of course. It was fascism, of course. But apartheid was something that was not tolerated. Through Angola, you know, we have a lot of soldiers who attended that, who was in that war, in that epopee. And of course, through our participation in the war in Africa, was possible to negotiate the independence of Namibia and they to start the negotiation for lifting the apartheid in South Africa. But it's something that we don't say all the time because it's something that we did it because we were committed to that, not because we are proud, not because of that, no. Because also the SWAPO was there, the MPLA was there, the African was there preparing in many countries to fight. We just were part of that, no more than that. That was a contribution that we made it to that. of course, the United States government, he took the wrong side, not the good one. This is something what's happening now. They are steering in the wrong side. They cannot understand, listen, drive to the other side. But if you are interested, as I said later, in the Cuban participation in the epopee of Africa, you have to remember to all the books of Piero Iglesias. He's the Bible, of course. He knows everything. He was in our archive, in the archive in South Africa, and he wrote all the books about the participation of Cuba in the war of Africa. That is something.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. But this was an opening remarks of an 8-hour conversation.
Yeah.
Much to read. Okay, there was somebody here had a hand. Yep, thank you. Can you introduce yourself first? And
Sanela is my name.
Mhm.
I serve in the District Executive Committee of the South African People's Party here in Cape Town.
I think you need to speak much louder, not just for me, but for the ambassador.
Or Sanela is my name.
Mm-hmm.
I serve in the District Executive Committee of the South African Communist Party in the Cape Town. I've got 2 questions only. At some point, the blockade was uplifted to a certain degree when the head of state in the US was the mascot of Wall Street in the form of Obama. Was that genuine in your view? Or the US saw itself being left behind in terms of economic progress there for their companies? The second one, you talked about international law. Do you have any hope that there can be reliance on international law with regards to the situation there, given the fact that law itself is a reflection of the economic dominance in terms of which system is being used globally?
And the last one, very complicated, is to put in my mouth some consideration that's, or the first one. At the Obama era, of course, there were some steps for trying to normalize the relations. I remember when Obama was in Cuba, he made a speech in the theater Garcia Lorca to all the people there. You remember that speech. And was that one phrase there that he put evidence what were the real intentions of United States. They changed the strategy. Yes, they changed the strategy to try to open the economy with Cuba, to try to get relations, but at the end, to try to overcome the system, to change it. So they haven't changed the tactics. Then, in that speech, Obama said, we have to forget everything that happens between us. From now on, a new point on for the future. That is something that not all the Cuban likes, because you cannot forget your story. The story makes the people not commit the same mistakes once again. And if you are asking to the Cuban people, okay, forget that we have a piece of land illegally by force taken to us, that we organize from our soil many terrorist attacks against your country. If you asking me to forget all this, and you point at, oh, we are friends, we love each other, it doesn't work like this. We have to keep that memory and to work to try to improve the relation, but without forgetting anything. Hmm? It's the way it is. That's why with Obama, it was good. Many things was made. Unfortunately, it was frustrated after that for Trump. But we accepted the challenge with Obama, even though we know that the intentions were behind. Hmm? But we accepted the challenge. Hmm? Because, as we said, we are ready to live in harmony with everyone. Hmm? The second question was about the Henry Reef. No, the Henry Reef was the third one.
International law, its role.
Mm.
Do you rely on?
From now on, we already 29 years in a row we presented the in United Nations all our denounced against the blockade United States. But the General Assembly is not the Security Council. There are two different things. In Security Council, all the sanctions and declarations that you made it there, they are compulsory, mandatory. They are mandatory, but not in General Assembly. And that is what is happening. If every year for more than 28 years they are supporting the report of Cuba against the blockade, the majority of the countries, only 2 or 3 countries, they are not in favor of the Cuban resolution. It means that the United States is isolated. It could be not any international law that prohibit that, because the United States said that that is a bilateral issue, which is not like that. It's not bilateral, because the blockade through the Helms-Burton Act prohibits any trade with the third country. So it's not a bilateral one. It's the multilateral one. But unfortunately, that's what is happening. It's only at the United Nations General Assembly where all the resolution that is approved there is not a mandatory for that. But at least the whole world knows that we are right, that the United States is making a mistake, that they are doing with that blockade something bad. You know? And in the case of the Henry Reef, we appreciate it a lot, especially here in South Africa, how you supported for the Henry Reef Brigade to get the Peace Prize, Nobel Prize, the Peace Nobel Prize. But it's something that is a decision of the Commission there. When you have to read all the previous one, the last ones. Obama was one of them. He made it 2-3 speech, very nice, very emotional. Peace Prize. Maybe any other person do a lot, even offer his life, and he don't get it. It's a commission who decide. Unfortunately, there are many things in this world today that they are not like it has to be, unfortunately.
Thank you, and I think our government officially supported that the Henry Reeves Brigade should receive the Nobel Peace Prize, as we did, and many countries, and hopefully that will still come. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. Now that the lights I can see actually. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm from UCT. I'm studying Bradford. you briefly mentioned the role of Fidel Castro and the role of Castro dynasty in general. And I just wanted to know what you as a Cuban actually perceive his legacy as. Because personally to me, I've come across very polarizing things said about him. On the one hand, it's just hero worship, and on the other hand, it's just extreme vilification. So I've always been curious, like, what do you see him as, or perceive his legacy as?
The legacy of Fidel Castro. I will tell you my personal opinion, the way I feel it for that. And it's the majority of the think of many people there. Unfortunately, Fidel Castro for us was so integrity that he didn't allow to build any statue or monument of his favor there in our country. It means that all the Cubans have to remember Fidel here. His legacy is so strong that in Cuba everybody have Fidel inside. You know, it's very common that every personality died and immediately monuments, sculpture, or something like that. But Fidel, he didn't allow. He said no. Not a street with his name, not a sculpture, nothing. The only that we have in Cuba now is a center for the studies of the Fidel thinking. It's the only what we have. But nothing could have his name there. So, for many people who saw his work, his legacy, everything he did it not only for Cuba, for the rest of the world, it's a pity because we wanted to see a sculpture, something for him, but nothing. But even though, as I tell you, people have Fidel inside every day in Cuba. When you say something, they say, if Fidel was alive, we did it in this way. Thanks Fidel, we have this. So we have to do like Fidel think. Mm? And it doesn't mean that we treat him like a god. No, he was a man, a normal man. And that's why we love him, because he was a man. Mm? And the new generations, we hope that all of them, they will continue with the same legacy of Fidel Castro, because it's from father to son and then to grandson. It's something that is, to understand the thinking of Fidel Castro, you have to be Cuban, because it's the spirit that we have inside, the resilience, the resistance. It's many things that Fidel teaches us.
Thank you. And there's a great deal of, it's appropriate we're in a bookshop. One can go and study some of the great speeches of Fidel, including the speech he gave to the South African Parliament when he made a state visit here in the early days of democracy. But also there are the extraordinary speeches like History Will Absolve Me, the kind of testimony of what the Cuban Revolution was about. So I encourage you to read and read and read and learn from Fidel. Not a god, but an intellectual and moral giant on the world stage in so many respects. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So,
You're going to tell us who you are first.
I'm Bruce Kadali from the Institute for African Alternatives, who is
Who are among the hosts of this.
hosting this. Okay. So, thank you very much. Yeah, I just, so for me, things come to mind from what you read, and what you know. I'm just, that powerful conservative Cuban lobby in the States, you know, I just want to learn more about what the relationship is there, what's going on there between Cuba as a state and that anti-Castro, lobby. Maybe you could shed some light on what the current state of that relationship is. And that leads me to another question, which is, Cuba itself and what it represents. So this is the second question. What is its approach to the notion of democracy? Because it's a socialist state, and but is it democratic? And what it?
First,
Okay, let's hear this answers to this first, and we'll go to the next one. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
you talk about the lobby there in the United States. I wouldn't say anti-Castro lobby, because Castro is more in the before. Anti-Cuban. The lobby is anti-Cuban. Is what I said. They dream all the time to get Cuba, to become Cuba as a big casino.
Okay.
Because there is no sense. We don't have any nuclear weapons. We don't have any big army. We haven't invited any country. We are not a threat to the United States. We are not one of the big sevens. We don't belong to the G7. We have a very poor economy. What is the threat to the United States of all? Because unfortunately, there in the Congress of the United States, the Cuba issue is in the hands of the right wings, some Cubans, like Marco Rubio, that he tells lies for getting political advantage there. For example, was an interview with him that he said that they left Cuba after the revolution because their parents, they were tortured in Cuba. And that was not true. The parents were living in the United States 2 years before the revolution. But the issue of Cuba in the Congress is something that they give advantage to the politicians, especially to the Cuban Americans. That's why it's something without no sense. Nowadays, in the Congress of the United States, there is a sense that they have to change to go back as the Obama started to do. We will wait. What we cannot do is to impose anything to the Congress of the United States. This is the problem. They are the ones that they cannot sleep. We sleep and go to party and we drink and we do everything in They are the ones that are suffering. No, we do. The second question. The first point of democracy is that you think different from me. And I respect the way you think and you respect the way I think. That's all. That is democracy. It couldn't be democracy that inside my country I allow the people to think different, and when I look at any country, if you don't think the way I think, you are anti-democrat. You cannot divide democracy between people and countries. It has to be the same. It's not coherence in that concept. I think different. I have a different way to resolve my problems. I respect that. You think different and you resolve. Your values are different from my values. I respect yours, you respect mine. Can you imagine any country goes to another country and says, I don't know, to any Asian country, we don't like that you eat rice every day. Why not? That's what they like to do. That is the thing of the democracy. You respect mine. Is to live in diversity. This is the motto of democracy, to live in diversity. Everybody criticizes that we in Cuba, we are not democratic, that you know, have freedom of expression, It's not true. You need to go to Cuba to see when see two Cubans and appear a third one, it's a big problem. You cannot resolve anything. Because they three have different opinions. It's very difficult to get them to. We criticize everything,
Thank you.
the good and the bad, and the middle also, everything. Yes.
Thank you, comrade. Just to say, I wanted to say to my brother, when he goes back to the United States, he will find all across the United States a strong solidarity organization with Cuba that is in the United States. And there are people in the United States who have been working to break the blockade, and practically caravans going every year to create that friendship between the peoples. Okay, yes, my sister.
So I wanted to say that as well, Father. I wanted us to actually highlight or focus on the fact that there's so much solidarity with Cuba, that there's friends of Cuba all over the world, but for me, it's a little bit exciting when I see Americans standing up for Cuba and speaking in solidarity and actively participating in actions that are supporting Cuba. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that. And then I mean, really, like, how wonderful is Western democracy that we want to promote it all over the show, firstly. Secondly, I think that the exciting thing for me about the democracy in Cuba is that that conversation that happens at street level. And we as South Africans have that a very small amount, but we have a bit of that experience from the 80s, which we call people's power. It's completely eroded. It hardly exists at all. But I mean, it's something that we can certainly learn from Cuba, because I think they've made some amazing advances because of it.
I wonder,
Just to rectify
question.
one thing, just to rectify, North American and also American.
Right. I wonder, in answering that, I think there's a conversation we had yesterday with the ambassador. Yes, we're committed to solidarity with Cuba, and that's been, you know, we would say we are permanently in solidarity with Cuba, but the form it takes will change with developments in the world. So I think the ambassador could help us to say what kinds of new possibilities for solidarity. And you were sharing something about when you were in Finland, some very interesting forms of solidarity that I hadn't heard of, and I think will be great for the comrades here to, and especially for the young people, new possibilities for different forms of practical solidarity with Cuba today.
Yes, there are many different practical. Nowadays, one of the issues that's it's a complicated thing, not only for the Cubans, for everybody, is the social media. Unfortunately, the social you read the highlights, and you don't read the rest of the article. They keep it only the highlights. A lot of solidarity we can do is through the social media, to try to be against of all these things, that people can share, so the real news, the not fake news, the real ones for the governments, not because someone said, no, in Cuba it's happening this. No, you have to go to the real government information. And that's why we ask it that through the social media, the solidarity to try to promote a network all over the world for that solidarity with Cuba.
The example you're giving from Finland?
Which one was? Also, yesterday I was talking with Charles. The economic situation in the country It's not easy. And many governments, they are afraid to invest in Cuba. Cuba is open to investment. We don't have any closed economy. As the media said, we don't have any closed economy. We have the opportunity to invest the foreign companies in a different kind of combinations. It could be the joint ventures, it could be economical associations. There are many differences. And when I was in Finland, I go through all country and I met some conference about the possibilities of invasion in Cuba. And there were many young people that they were interested to invest in our country. So this is also the possibility to give solidarity. You are not giving something because I want to give. We were doing something that will be beneficial for both. You invest, you earn, and we have. That is something that is normal between countries. That unfortunately the government of the United States, the government of the United States is trying to put obstacles in any investment that wants to do. But through many private companies, they can do nothing. They can do through a state ones, but not to the private one. So this is also a kind of solidarity that we can.
And I must say it's great that tonight there are many cameras and every word is being recorded, and I think part of our role is to spread between South Africa and Cuba. I wonder if you could give a little bit of picture of the present cooperation between Cuba and South Africa. I mean, not everybody knows that we have young students studying medicine in Cuba. We have many of our doctors who have been trained here. Just to give a bit of a picture and the present kind of cooperation, maybe in the region, both with Eswatini and Lesotho, as well as South Africa.
Yeah. In South Africa, we still have cooperation in some areas, in some fields. Like in medicine, we have still doctors working here. In many provinces, less in Western Cape. In Western Cape, we don't have any doctor because it's a decision of the provincial government. We have engineers working in public works. We have engineers working in water affairs. We have advisors working in basic education. All of them in rural areas, none of them in the capital of the provinces. And the future of that cooperation, it will depend of the South African government. You know, we never will impose to be here because we want to be here and we want to take the money of South Africa. No, something that's, if the government asks us to stay, to be here for 10 years, we will be 10 years here. Everything will depend of the government to government agreements. It's not because we want to do it by force. Also, we have in Eswatini a medical brigade there, the health brigade of 45 Cuban doctors, and in Lesotho we also have around 12 Cuban doctors working there. In Africa as a whole, there are many countries that they have Cuban medical teams working there. And we call that a comprehensive health program. Comprehensive health program is because we give them the services with the medical doctors for some time in the country, but at the same time, we prepare in Cuba students that in the future they can replace that Cubans, that they can have their own labor force. It's not that we, that's why it's comprehensive. You prepare the people, but you don't have now to have that services in the country. You have them, all these Cubans working here, and I don't know, in 10, 12 years, they can't replace them. The thing is that if they want to work there in the rural areas, this is another thing.
And how many South Africans are currently studying in Cuba?
Now there are around some hundreds, some hundreds.
Medical study and
Medical and in other specialties,
Oh.
but mainly medical studies.
So what would be your, if you were asked to give us a challenge, you're the ambassador of Cuba in South Africa tonight, what's the challenge that you would love to give us as the Solidarity Organization?
As the Solidarity Organization. That would be not the challenge. That is something that you always did it. To keep that spirit and that commitment of solidarity.
So the spirit of solidarity.
Exactly, the spirit. If
Like,
you
like
keep
the
it that,
sister was talking about
Yes.
solidarity with Palestinians, with
Yeah.
Tigray, and. Yeah.
if you keep it inside, you know, and your commitment with that solidarity, it's not a challenge. It's something that you do it because it's born from you. It comes from inside from you, you know. If you see it like a challenge, we have to do some solidarity actions. It's something that we have to plan. And maybe we do it today and not tomorrow. Hmm? I think that the commitment for some cause has to be something part of the spirit and the soul of each one. That's why when I said, if the blockade they will lift it sometime, I said, no, we will not give up, because we have the commitment that is inside that we will never be overthrown, never.
And maybe the challenge as well, I mean, people like, Fatima's just had her 75th birthday, and I've just had my 40th birthday. So we think it's time for us to step back a little bit. We actually need a new generation of South Africans stepping forward to lead the Solidarity Organization. So maybe, who are members here of the Central Committee of the Friends of Cuba? Just identify yourself. Just put your hands up. Who is here? Just I want to see the people can just wave. Okay.
I would like to ask a question.
Yeah, before that, just hold on a second. Hold on a second. I want to stay with this point for a moment. Who are the members of the organizing committee of Friends of Cuba who are here? Let's hear the names. Wave. There's Charles, there's Ansar, there's Akida, there's Fatima,
There's me.
Salefa,
All of them very young.
Carl,
Teto isn't here.
and Teto's not here, eh? Okay.
No.
But what I'm saying is we need new young blood to join us. So I'm mentioning those names, so please don't hesitate to contact one of us and say, I would like to get involved in solidarity with Cuba, even with new ideas. Comrade Becky he had a short retirement. So we've decided to forgive him, accept him back to full-time solidarity. Comrade.
Yes, thanks, Father Michael. I'm a member of Focus who is out of action. First is just a comment and then a question. The comment, Father, is on the pushback on the solidarity of South Africa with Cuba. Without the South Africans standing up to defend that solidarity, it's in many ways. One is the issue of the Cuban leaders that are in South Africa. There's a pushback from the media and other sectors around that particular issue. There is cooperation in the military between the South African National Defense Force and the Cuban military. The SNDF had to return medicine, interferon, interferon 2B medicine that was used to cure COVID, because SAPRA did not approve it. And yet the person who decides on the medicine for the military is a general who is called the Surgeon General, that is in charge of the South African Military Health Service. But the pushback made the SANDF to return 500,000 doses of the medicine that was going to assist the soldiers against COVID-19. There is a cooperation on what is called Project Tusana, which is Cuban engineers as well as military students who are sent to study in Cuba. So it's part of the Project Tusana, the ambassador knows about it. But there is also a pushback on it. Now, from the military side, military are not politicians. They cannot go out and defend that position. So that position is dependent on the people, and the people like the Focus to know about it and to be able to defend that position. So it's not only in that area. There's a huge pushback on the Cuban South African solidarity, and I think for me we're not hearing, as much as the government is always in many problems, that because of corruption and many other things, that you find that they are unable to defend even the positions. I mean, there was money that was supposed to be given to Cuba. You remember, I can't remember, I think it was about 50 million. And there was a pushback on that. And it's interesting when you hear the ambassador say, Cuba had to assist and assist others in without saying we are poor, we must first feed ourselves. They say the little that we have we share with the rest. But South Africans, the noise was that whilst there are so many people that are hungry and they are given 350 rands, but you've got 50 million rands that you are giving to Cuba. And there is no voice that comes out from us as South Africans to explain that, to say how does that historical relationship with Cuba go. So that's just a comment. But the question is on one of the things that the United States did was to arrest the Cuban Five. And there was a big campaign for the freedom of the Five. I remember my first and only time that I visited Cuba was going to the colloquium for the release of the Five. And they visited us in South Africa, and we were very happy and celebrating after they've been released. I would like to know, where are they? What are they doing currently? Because we've been, since they were released, I'm not sure if now they have died down or they are part of continuing with the
They're on the forefront.
They are on the forefront. You see, you can see I've been out of action.
Where the fight, they are in Cuba. They are in Cuba.
Okay.
Fernando González is the president of ICAP, the Institute for the Friendships with the People in the World. So he's in charge of the solidarity movement with the world, that institution in Cuba. René is working as a deputy director for the archive of one archive where we are doing about the Cuban Fight, which all the history, what's happened, with everything, collecting everything that was there in some solidarity with them to try to do something of them. Antonio is the deputy president for the Institute of Enterprises. I said René, Antonio, Gerardo is the president of CDRs, the president of the Committee of Defense of the Revolution, the president of that. Who else? Which is the last one? I said Antonio, René, Gerardo, ¿quién me falta? Which is the last one? I forgot now the name. He's the deputy director for the Economy Study Center. So they are working. Two of them are members of the parliament. The rest, the other three, they are not members of the parliament. But they are fine, like a normal Cubans.
Right.
Something that, of course, we consider our heroes. They are heroes, but a normal heroes. The heroes noir, they are not Superman or Batman. They don't fly. They are with their feet on the ground, struggling with the rest of the Cubans. These are the real heroes. The ones that are not flying, the ones that are shoulder with all of us. These are the real heroes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment on what the comment the comrade made before he asked this question. The Comrade Naledi Pandor, our Minister of International Relations, just in the last week, has been defending the 50 million from the people of South Africa to the people of Cuba. We needed to have voices all across the country of people in solidarity saying, we support that. Not long ago, Comrade Fatima and myself met Comrade Naledi Pandor, and she said, when she speaks in favor, she's not hearing the voices of the Solidarity organization coming out in her support. So that, I think, is very important, because otherwise she's fed to the wolves by a sort of, if you like, our shadow side as the people of South Africa, forgetting that we got democracy. Yes, we fought for it, but the peoples of the world walked beside us. And it seems sometimes our memories are very short, and we forget what solidarity did for us. But also for those who are not aware, one of the Cuban Five, Comrade Gerardo, is now the head of the CDR. I had the privilege of visiting him in prison 10 times. And every time we parted, I always said, I hope I'm never going to see you again in prison. And one day it was true, because again there was extraordinary solidarity from the people of Cuba, but also around the world, demanding their freedom. And the US thought they would be forgotten in the dungeons, but in fact, they weren't. But I always remember once meeting Comrade Gerardo in prison. It was just after Comrade Sisulu had gone to join the ancestors. And the first thing Comrade Gerardo said, I just want to express my condolences to the people of South Africa for the loss that they have suffered. Here's this man in prison. He didn't know until when, but he's thinking about the people of South Africa. And he himself, of course, was an internationalist in Angola as well. So thank you. Okay, I think we want to begin to wrap up, but last comments and questions from the floor? Any of the Central Committee who haven't spoken or would like to say something? Comrade Fatima, we haven't heard your voice except Shiri.
I have one.
I know you've got 6 more questions. Go for one.
No, just one. And it's a funny one. So during the struggle against apartheid, you funded Cuba lots of weapons of war in the fight, against apartheid. You had money for that. So I just want to know, with your great culture and your art and your interest in art, would you fund something like this? Ambassador. That's all. Thank you.
Do you mean, are there branches of this bookshop all over Cuba?
No, it was a rhetorical question, but you could answer if you want.
Yeah, so maybe, what?
He's the ambassador after all, and they do have money.
Well, Cuba doesn't.
Comrade Fatima?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to echo Father Michael that I think for those people who are following the People's Assembly that took place in also Los Angeles alongside the other American thing going down. But there was a lot of young voices that was there in terms of the anti-imperialist movement is growing in America, it's growing all over the world, I think, in many ways. And the sentiments and the solidarity across the world, that people are tired of being bullied and so on. So I think it is time for new voices, new ideas, new energy to come. And maybe just to respond that, I mean, Cuba is, I know one of my friends was in Cuba when you have your book festival, right? You have the book festival, and he said he never saw people walking from the ordinary people walking from the book festival with packets and packets of books because the books are so cheap and so available. And of course, those books is across from all kinds of genres and information. And that has always attracted me to Cuba as somebody from education, was that they saw education as the most important thing that would defend the revolution.
Yes.
Because otherwise you can't explain and have a debate with you, you know. When things are going wrong, you have to have a conversation. And so I'm very excited. I just love Andre for this bookshop. I think he did, when he thought nothing else would happen anymore. Where's Andre?
He went up.
Went to have a smoke.
Life is going down the drain. He comes up with this, and it has been such a blessing for many of us to find a home. But I think it's important about that, because for me, Cuba is not just about money, it's about the idea of what we can be as human beings, you know, and moving humanity forward. And so I'm always very, you know, I think as Comrade Enrique was saying, it must be in your spirit that you are able to defend not just Cuba, but any peoples that are oppressed, whether it's being in Palestine or any other place. But I'm sure we will ask Comrade Andre if we can't leave here something where people can just also put their names in. If they
Sign up for-
sign up.
Yeah, for us that's important. There is actually a register right there. People, please,
On the table, isn't it?
I'll ask you to
Beautiful.
register us, as you leave or stay.
Thank you. If I could just share two little stories. I wrote a memoir about my life, and it was published first in the United States of America. And it has a chapter about Cuba. The US publishers had no objections to anything in my book except the chapter about Cuba. In that chapter, I said there is only one place in Cuba where torture happens, Guantanamo Bay, the place that is under the control of the United States of America. So I said to my friends in the United States, I am not removing one word from that chapter. You need to publish it as it is. They did, but their only little punishment was they removed the photograph of myself with Comandante Fidel. So I told this story in Cuba at Cuban Book Festival, and the Cubans said, we shall publish a Cuban edition. And in that edition will be the photograph of yourself with Comandante Fidel. And so they did that. So indeed there is a Cuban edition. But it speaks to what Fatima is speaking about, the world of ideas. The other just personal thing I wanted to share, the ambassador very kindly congratulated me for the Nawano Peace Prize, a prize from an interfaith organization based in Tokyo. And when they awarded the prize, they said it's for your work of healing of memories and as well for your solidarity with the people of Cuba. So that prize was also a prize for international solidarity, recognizing that part of making peace in the world is having friendship and solidarity with the peoples of the world. And thank you for hosting us in this amazing bookshop. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Okay, come in, Ambassador.
Oh, my last word.
Your last word before we mingle.
Before we mingle.
Sorry, we've got a Cuban section in this.
Yeah, yes, I see.
So please hang around and we spoke some Cuba.
Not American, it's Cuba. I already noticed.
Thank you, Ambassador. Last word.
Yes, the last words, I think that's it will be the beginning of my words. It means that I hope to see you again. So this will be not the last. So the last will be for the time I will leave this country. So what I want to appreciate to all of you to be here today in this wonderful store. I like it the way it is. To hear us, to share opinions. When I was telling to Father Michael, at the beginning I started to talk with some notes that I wrote. When we started the second part to share opinions, I said, this second part I'm more comfortable. Why? Because I will not talk with the paper. I will talk with my heart. And that's what I did it. And that's why thank you very much for paying attention to me. The attention that maybe I don't deserve. It's you who deserve that attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Viva Cuba, viva! Viva international solidarity, viva!
A message of solidarity from the American people against the blockade and in support of Cuba.
Keep it going.
Keep it going.
Keep it going.
Thank you.
I appreciate it a lot. Just keep the hands, please.